Okay, so this next is the sales order line statuses. Then we have created when the sales order is in draft and the order lines and it is not yet submitted, but the order lines are created. You add an order line, then it is a created status. And open if it has not completed fulfillment lines. So for every corresponding order line, there would be one or many fulfillment lines. And if these fulfillment lines are not completed, the status of order line would be open. And partial if few of the fulfillment lines are completed. For example, corresponding to one order line, if I have 4 or 5 fulfillment lines and only few of them are completed, then it is partial. If all the fulfillment lines are completed, only then it goes to closed. And if all the fulfillment lines are cancelled, only then it goes to a cancelled status. Okay, it's similar with what we had seen in the earlier slide. Okay, so this is the differentiation between your header level and line level. The attributes that are present at header level are business unit, customer, bill to, ship to, order date, which is populated by default, but if it is not populated by default, it is your duty to fill the order date based on which when the sales order is created. These are the attributes at the header level. Next, what you have is the line level. Under line level, you have item, quantity, UOM. Order cannot be booked without these things. And supply is if you fail to enter this, it gets submitted, but the fulfillment might not happen. Supply is giving you warehouse or giving your supplier name or something. So if it's a dropship flow, it goes with the supplier, and if it's a standard flow, you give your warehouse. And payment terms, if you don't enter payment terms, the submission still will happen, but the invoicing will not happen. By default, I think in Seeded some of the other would be defaulted. Sometimes it doesn't get defaulted as well. There can be none or null there. So then invoicing will not happen. So these are few things that I request you to remember so that it will be of help for you. So this is the screen, the order management screen that I was talking about. So you can have a look at the customer. There you have a customer and the customer's Phoenix computers. And we have populated the business unit as well, and then we have the bill to, ship to, and ship to addresses, and most of this would come from AR customers itself. So the customer is also created in the AR screen, and we have the order date. I think we can edit it if you want. You can give it in a past date or whatever it is. Purchase order is for tracking. If you are creating a sales order against any purchase order, you can enter those values. Order type comes from a lookup, from an order management lookup. Right now the lookup is empty. If you want, you can create few order types and then enter those order types and define your own order types against the sales order. So coming to the bottom part of the page, you can see order lines, and under order lines you see you can always select an item. That's the first tab of it. And you add an item and you see the quantity and the UOM there, and you can select the UOM. If it is a dual UOM, probably you'll have an option of selecting another UOM. And then it gives you the stock that is present, and then we have a sales price. So whatever item you present enter here, right, based on your item and your customer combination, the sales price is retrieved. So this is where when you enter the item and then do a tab out and then enter the quantity and do a tab out, this is where the pricing engine is actually invoked, and the pricing cloud sends you the price to the DOO, which has an inbuilt integration between these two things, and it will send you the price. Once you add, the line gets added. This is what we call as an order line, and fulfillment line is something which gets generated only after you submit.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have something called as, you can see this truck icon and these things, right? These are payment terms and all related information will be present here. And under this truck icon, you have something called as supply and shipping method. So we will see that. So those details can be given here at the shipping icon. So navigating, this is the typical, this is the look of the landing page when you click on the order management, and you have many options. So create order is for creating the order, manage order is for searching for the orders. So you can search for the fulfillment lines directly, return fulfillment lines, and if there are any exceptions on the fulfillment lines, based on that also you can search for it. And if any orders are in error, you could go to the orders in error and manage orchestration, order orchestration messages. Messages are like, for example, if you're trying to interface from some other system to order management, and if it is failing, then you can probably see, go to the orchestration messages and see why it has failed. Probably it can give you a hint of why it has failed, like something is not matching or this is not found in FOM. So you can see such kind of messages there. Orchestration processes is the number that gets generated when you create a sales order against an orchestration process, right? With that number also you can always search in this UI. Typically they are more or less, like querying at the backend and retrieving the results for you. And these are the different graphs or analytics that are available on the orders that you have created. For example, if some order sales orders are back ordered, then this queue comes up, and depending on when it is back ordered and all, a graph would be generated. So currently there are no back orders, no orders past due, and no orders on hold. So the graphs are empty, and whereas you can see some orders in jeopardy and orders in other and fulfillment lines in jeopardy. So based on these things, these three get generated, and you can see that the orders in jeopardy are 13 and the fulfillment lines are also 13. You can make it out that there is probably only one order line per order, and each order line has only one fulfillment line in these cases, which need not be true all the times. So here it is tallying. Okay. And one important point which I forgot to tell you in the pricing session is, if you're making any changes to the prices in the pricing list and you're clicking on save and close, don't expect the prices to reflect immediately. By default, there is a caching algorithm which prevents from immediate refresh of the price list values. It will take minimum of 1 hour, 50 minutes to 1 hour, or maybe more than that sometimes, to reflect the prices. And if you want to see immediately the price changes, maybe in 5 or 10 minutes, probably you'll have to disable the cache, which is part of the algorithm, if I'm not wrong. You'll have to go there explicitly, you need to switch off or turn off the cache, and then you can probably see the changes immediately, but which is not recommended. Oracle doesn't recommend turning off the cache, because it takes on the performance side, it can be a problem, because it might take some time to load the prices when you're entering the items in the orders. So that's what they claim it to be. So this is one point I request you to remember, because sometimes we change the prices or discounts and say that it's not getting reflected, and maybe after a couple of hours or maybe after 1 hour you see those changes coming in the system. Okay. Getting back to the topic, you can manage attachments and add some of the attachments, some sales order attachments. Edit additional information is the one which is called as the extensible flex fields, which is very important. And this edit additional information means that you're creating EFFs on the header level. So you can create EFFs on the header level as well as at the line level. So if you have something which is common across a sales order, across the order lines of a sales order, then you create an EFF across at the header level. Something like, if you have order type, right? It's given out of box. Earlier it was not there in previous releases. So if you wanted something like an order type, then you can define an EFF for order type and then add it on top of you as a header EFF, and then add your own values from your value set. So those values will come in there. The similar thing you can see at the line level, and anywhere if you're seeing edit additional information kind of thing, it can indicate that it is EFF. It can be an EFF, but mainly an EFF. Okay. View pricing strategy and segment is the key thing that I would say, because when you enter the customer and if you come to see the view pricing strategy and segment, this will tell you to what pricing strategy and what segment is the customer falling under. Sometimes it may happen that you enter the customer and you enter the item and you're not seeing the price appearing. Then you click on this view pricing strategy and segment. It will tell you till where you have done till where you're going wrong. For example, it may happen that the customer and the segment are mapping, but the segment and the strategy are not mapping. There are four fields there, out of which you can make out. Like, for example, I have actually assigned it to a different segment, but I see a different segment here. Or it helps you in your cross validation and all. Create document is nothing but creating a document out of your sales order. It creates a document, and there are two features in document. One, you can create a document and download it, and the other one, you have an email feature coming in there. So I think from R12 you have this feature. Earlier it was not there. So what happens is you can configure your email in a setup there where you can enter your email, and once you say email this, it will directly email to the to address whatever you mentioned it there. Edit currency details. If you want to change any currency on the sales order, you can try changing the edit currency details. So this is how the actions drop down is designed in FOM. So moving on to the next slide. So this is when we have what we have if the order is in draft status, but if the order is submitted, right, you cannot make any changes here. Like you cannot make any changes if it is in processing status. So what you can do is only do a copy and edit. Copy and edit creates another order and you can edit it. it's almost like a new draft order would be created with all the parameters that you have entered here. Most of the parameters would be reflected there. And once you submit a processing order, if you you can have a good look at the order line, you cannot see anything like add or something here, right? So all it means is that I can create only a revision out of it and then add a new line. You cannot add a line as such once you submit the order if it is in processing status. Cancel order if you want to cancel the order, and there is holds. The holds present at the right top corner, right? And the hold, apply hold at the these two things are almost same, but apply hold here would apply at the line level, and here it's at the header level. But the hold is a hold; it will hold the order. Switch to fulfillment view is the most important one, because whatever order or order lines that you're creating here, when you click on switch to fulfillment view, that's where the original fulfillment view of it would open, and you can see the fulfillment lines there, not in this UI. In this UI, you cannot see any fulfillment lines. Okay, if you want to have a look at the fulfillment lines or the status of the fulfillment lines, or what your orchestration process is, or how your orchestration process is behaving, if you want to have a look at it, you will have to switch to the fulfillment view. So prior to release R11, prior to release 11, when CPQ was there, or even before that, way back in release 5 or 6, what was only the switch fulfillment view was the only view that started off with do. This part of creating orders was not available prior to this. So view additional information is EFF document, it's the same thing, and the currency is also the same details. The only difference I wanted to show is that the copy and edit feature and the create revision feature, which is available only if you submit the order, and this moves to the processing status. So you can see here clearly, right? It's the processing status. So this is the fulfillment view. When you click on switch to fulfillment view, right, this is the view that you'll be seeing, and in this view it will show you order lines, fulfillment lines, and returns. So order lines are the lines that you have created while creating the sales order lines. Those would fall under the order lines, and fulfillment lines are the fulfillment lines which are created against the order lines. So for example, if you have order line number as 1 at the top left bottom, so you see order line as 1, right? Under fulfillment line, you can see the fulfillment line as 1-1. So it means it says that there is only one fulfillment line for order line 1. In case if it is split into two fulfillment lines, right, you can see 1-1 and 1-2, which means that order line 1, the first fulfillment line, and the second fulfillment line. So that's how it shows. And if there are any returns, the returns would be tracked under the returns tab of it. Okay, so this is the fulfillment view of it. Okay, so if you have a look at it, it says that source order system is OPS. OPS is if the order is created within FOM, right, then the source order system is OPS, and if you're importing it from some other systems, through what system you're importing, that order system name would be order system code would be punched in here. Okay, and you can see that the source order number is 5006 here. That also you can see it. The source order number is 5006 here. The sales order number is also 5006. For FOM things, both are same. Source order and sales order is same. Okay. In case if you want to define your custom criteria for a orchestration process, then you'll have to create some assigning mechanism somewhere, like if your customer is Phoenix customers, then pick up the custom process. Or you can say that if in this case the example I have worked on, if the purchase order is pause, I've simply given pause. Just to say that, just to differentiate or assign it to a particular orchestration process. So whenever I give this as pause, then I'll have a different orchestration process into it. If I don't give this, it goes to a normal orchestration process. That's how it gets picked up. I'm sorry. So we have something called as a VO, which is a view object. So all the parameters that are there, right, which are seen, which are not seen also, something like customer ID, contact ID. So all these kind of things are exposed as part of your view object, and you can use any of the parameters as a view object, and then assign a process based on the view object parameters or attributes. So that is doable. Okay, and also you can do based on something like item parameters also. So you might say that if it is a hazardous material or some specific attribute which you have defined, I want to have some special instructions or a special orchestration process that should trigger whenever you handle hazardous, or a special packing that should happen. Based on those item parameters also you can define. You can define your own orchestration process, and you can assign it so that your targeted orchestration process gets kicked off. It's doable. So moving on to the next slide. So this is what we have seen. This is a fulfillment view, and this is a fulfillment lines. This is order lines view. This is a fulfillment lines view. So this is what I was talking about, 1-1, which means it's the order line number 1 and the first fulfillment line. And this is the orchestration process number which I was talking about. If you see, this is the orchestration process number of the orchestration process name, new to pause ship order generic process. So this is the name of the orchestration process. This is a custom orchestration process which I have defined, and this gets kicked in only when I give give the purchase order type as pause. Only then that gets kicked in. That's how I define the rule. And if you don't give pause there, then the default process would get kicked in here. And no matter what the orchestration process name is, there is as long as it is assigned to the orchestration process, right, there is a unique number that gets generated, and clicking on this orchestration process number takes you to the orchestration process plan. So this is what you see when you click on the orchestration process number, right? This is what you see. So you have an orchestration plan, and this tells you what is the task progress and what is the task that is there. So the first step in this orchestration process is scheduled, reserved, completed, awaiting shipping, and not started. And you see that the order, everything that is in green says that it is past state. So scheduled is done, reserved is done, completed is done, and that's why you see task progress in green, and the rest two are pending. So that's the reason you see it in yellow. So the awaiting shipping and the invoicing steps are not yet done. So the order, the fulfillment lines are currently in awaiting shipping status. So that's what you can. Okay, so where were we? This is done. Okay, so this is how the order progresses. I think it's similar to what a workflow is. So this is how the progression is, how it progresses, and you cannot change these once an order is submitted at whatsoever level. Now you cannot make any changes to it. If you want to make any changes, you'll have to make it at the orchestration definition level and make sure that the right orchestration process is assigned to it. And once it is attached to an orchestration process, based on that, the orchestration tasks would progress. So there's no manual assigning of your orchestration process, like while creating an order, can I give the orchestration process directly there? Those kind of things are not there. All of these are rule driven. Okay. All right, so welcome to distributed order orchestration, which is the most important part of order management. All right, so let's see what the contents are. So under the contents, what we have is the introduction of to-do and the do architecture, and understanding the terminology, transformation types, and the orchestration process definition, orchestration process assignment, how do we do it, and introduction to OBR. OBR is heart of do, and do is heart of order management. So if you want to do any kind of configurations which interacts with external systems or assigning orchestration process, so all these kind of things are basically driven by Oracle business rules. The more understanding you have on Oracle business rules, the better idea or knowledge you'll have on do. So let's have a brief introduction of what it is. So DOO is the enterprise applications part of Fusion applications, and what typically Oracle claims is it's completely built on SOA. SOA is a technology, middleware technology. It's built on completely on Oracle SOA, and what they claim it to be as ERP agnostic browser-based application that works with order capture systems and order fulfillment systems to integrate data, and to give a global order book. So hope you remember the initial slide which I have shown when I was doing the order to cash overview. There was an DOO which acts as a kind of exchange between the order capture systems and the order fulfillment systems, right? So that's the reason they call it as ERP agnostic. Maybe they are trying to tell that if the order capture is Siebel, SAP, or ATG Commerce, you can capture orders from anywhere. And then also, if you can capture orders from no matter what the order capture system is, the order fulfillment system can be anything else. So you can fulfill it using an SAP or any other system, or WMS system, or your Logfire, whatever it is, you can fulfill it there also. So DOO acts as an exchange or a switch network between these two things, and this is possible only because DOO follows the architecture of SOA. The next slide. So this is how the picture looks like, and this is what they are talking about, ERP agnostic or something, which is that your order capture system and your order fulfillment system can be Oracle, can be non-Oracle, can be on cloud, can be on different systems at all, completely together. Completely different and diversified order capture systems and order fulfillment systems. And you have multiple order capture systems and multiple order fulfillment systems. It still helps you in directing your order capture to order fulfillment system. So what I mean is, for example, if your order capture system is one and you want to direct it to order fulfillment system 3, and that should fulfill it. DOO does the duty for it, so it will direct it to order fulfill 3 system based on certain rules, and these rules are written in OBR again. Okay, so DOO starts with decomposition, and then it follows with the orchestration, and then we have a task layer, and then we have an external integration layer or the external interface layer, which invokes this. EIL is the one which invokes different fulfillment systems, and based on OBR you can invoke which order fulfillment system to be invoked based on certain criteria. You can set your own criteria, saying that if the source system is CBEL or if the source system is commerce, then invoke some other fulfillment system. So those kind of definitions, which external system should be invoked, is actually taken care in the external integration layer or the external interface layer. So going on to the next slide, this is what they call it as you can see the decomposition. During the process of decomposition, using the transformation rules, so you see that the transformation rules is part of decomposition. DOO transforms sales order into an orchestration order. So left side what you see is a typical sales order, probably created in FOM or any other external system. You have a source order and you have source order line 1, 2, 3. So these are the different orders and order lines. This is what you can call it as an order and order line. And to the right side, you see that once the order is transformed, you see that there is an transformed order line 1, line 2, line 3, and you have fulfillment lines against it. And to each fulfillment line, you'll have one minimum of one orchestration process. Sorry, you can have only one orchestration process tagged on a fulfillment line. Okay, so one order line can have multiple fulfillment lines, and each fulfillment line can be tagged to different orchestration processes. Or it can also happen that there is only one fulfillment line against your order line, and there is only one orchestration stamped on all these order lines on all these fulfillment lines. Okay, is that clear? All right. So yeah, so we are talking about the pre-transformation rules, product transformation and post-transformation rules, right? So post-transformation generally kick in after you click on the submit button, and then you have no control once you submit the transformation, once you submit the sales order. So that's where you have the post-transformation rules come in. And you have a pre-transformation rules or product transformation rules just before the submit button. You can have it on save or something like just before the submit. So these difference is very subtle and narrow to understand sometimes, but as and when you try to do things right, you can understand more. So under product transformation rules, I would like to emphasize more on the product transformation rules as part of theory. We had these different types of transformation rules. So one is a product to product transformation rule. Another one is a product to attribute, attribute to product, attribute to attribute, context to attribute, context to product. So there is nothing like you'll have to select one of these things, some kind of drop downs and then add it. It's not like that. It's just to give a sample of what a product transformation can be, or an example of what a product transformation can be. So for example, if you have a sales order, if you have a look at the screenshot to the right, you have something called as a sales order. And a sales order, you have added an order line 2, which says that it's a deluxe accessory package. Now, after product transformation rule, it can be that this accessory package is split into different fulfillment lines, and those fulfillment lines can be something like adding a docking station, mouse, adapter, and keyboard. So that's the reason you can see that the order line 2, to fulfill only order line 2, you have 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, and 5.1 as your fulfillment lines for different order lines. So the transformed order lines are different from the original sales order lines. So against each transformed order line, you have another fulfillment line. So that is what they mean by their fulfillment lines and the order lines and the relation between order lines and the fulfillment lines. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Okay, so I had a problem with changing the slide. Okay, now it moves on to the next slide. So the next slide which we're talking is about a pre-transformation rule which we have worked out in this instance. So what I'm trying to do in this pre-transformation rule is I'm trying to create a kind of defaulting rule, or saying that if an item is so and so, I would try to assign it from a particular warehouse, and I would say shipping instructions to be handled with care. So this is what I'm trying to achieve. So there's an if condition and there's a then condition, and in the if I talk about what is the rule condition, and if the rule condition is met, what should be the action? Okay, And then please check your internet connection probably, others are able to see. Okay, so we have something called as a pre-transformation rule. In this we have created a sample defaulting rule. So in this defaulting, in the if condition we have something called as a rule action, rule condition, and in under the then we have something called as a rule action. So if the rule condition is met, then it goes to the then part of it. So then part of it will have the rule action, and under the rule action I'm defining what set of steps should I perform. So that's the reason I have highlighted the edit action. Under the edit action, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add a shipping instruction saying that handle with care for these items. At the same time, also defaulting the warehouse to be to A2F warehouse 1. So you can do these kind of defaulting things in your pre-transformation rules. Okay, and next is a product transformation rule, and under product transformation rule, what I'm
Krishna,
trying.
can you go back to the slide?
Yeah.
Previous one.
So next, what we we have something called as the managed product transformation rules. This is what our main interest is. So what happens in this product transformation rules is this is how a typical OBR screen looks like, and this is also, this earlier used to be in OBR. Even now it is available in OBR, but they have developed a visual based screens on top of OBR. So this becomes a little simple to configure, whereas your OBR screen is a little tough to understand and looks more technical and needs more parameters to input. So in this thing, if you see, you have something called as order transformation rules dot fulfill line vivo dot inventory. So what I'm trying to do here is, if my inventory ID is this, then I will add a new order line which adds an item of this, which has the item ID of this. So if I have an item ID with this, or in simple terms, if I say if I'm adding i7 processor, probably I'm getting another order line which is, let's say, bag or a case. That is what all this rule talks about. Okay. So this is the product transformation. This is an example which we worked on. For example, while adding the line, I am only adding accessories item for accessories, but this is automatically added, and this is a message. You see, this is the key here, added automatically because of line 1. You see this message whenever order lines are getting added as part of some transformation rules. Okay, this is how the product transformation looks like in this instance. I have configured this. We will go through that also in the instance. And then what we have is the most important one is the orchestration. So when I define orchestration, the first thing to start off with, it is similar to the concept of workflow in ABIS, but the orchestration is the automated sequence of fulfillment steps for processing an order. So it's you can also call it as a business process, or a task-driven process, or set of tasks in sequence. So you can give different definitions to it, but ultimately it is a set of tasks, and each task does some business operation. That's what you can understand in simple terms for orchestration to be. Okay, so let's have a look at the list of seeded orchestration processes. So we have 4 seeded orchestration processes as part of Art12. So the one is a do underscore bill only generic process, which is used only for invoicing. It has only 2 steps: invoice and await invoicing. And next is the do order fulfill generic process. This is the new process that is from R11, I guess. So what happens in this order fulfill generic process is, this order is a master orchestration process which handles back-to-back, drop ship, and standard processes. So all these 3 are handled in this do order fulfill generic process. Whereas the return order generic process is only for return and invoice. There are only 2 steps. First step is the return, next is the invoice, and the other one is await invoicing. And the last we see is the ship order generic process. In ship order generic process, we have 4 tasks: schedule, reserve, ship, and invoice. So this is how workflow works. And if you want to add anything, you can add any of the steps, manual ones or pause steps, or try to change a sequence or remove a step. You can always do that. And custom orchestrations can be defined and defined by the user. You can define any number of custom orchestration processes, but you can assign only one orchestration process to one fulfillment line at a time. And the orchestration process has to be deployed. There is a process for defining the orchestration process also, which we'll see in some time. So once PPT is idle in full screen mode, right? I am not able to change the slide.
Yeah.
So these are the seeded ones, right? Okay, fine. This is the orchestration process flow. Process flow in this, not the tasks, But how to create an orchestration process, this life cycle of orchestration process, if you want, you can call it as, not what steps are there inside an orchestration process, that we have seen in the earlier slide. So in this slide, what we are seeing is how to create an orchestration process. You create or copy an orchestration process, make whatever modifications you want to do that, and then validate the process. So sometimes it may happen that you're doing some kind of not filling some fields or leaving some OBR rules, not completely filling it as per the syntax of the OBR and all. Then you'll have to validate the process, and if there are any mistakes, then you'll have to fix it, and then you have to validate again. And once it is validated, you can release the process. Once you release the process, only release processes are available for deployed. If you create an orchestration process, validate it, release it, but not deploy it, you'll not be able to see it in the instance. See it in the instance means see it getting applied to some order or something. You'll have to have it deployed. Only then you do it. And deploy is not a heavy server kind of thing. Nothing that. There's a simple step where you click on deploy. It asks for a username, password, and a port is generated by default. You just click on OK. It automatically gets deployed. So deployment process has got nothing to do with the EM logic or with Oracle SR, nothing like that. All these things can be done in instance, in one after the other with your credentials itself, instance credentials itself. Okay, so this is orchestration process life cycle. Okay, so the orchestration process assignment is the key UI or the rule that drives what orchestration process needs to be stamped against the fulfillment line. And you can have any number of orchestration process defined in the instance, but only one orchestration process gets assigned to a fulfillment line based on the unique criteria that you define. So it is the criteria, that's the reason what we call as the rule-based one or fact-driven one, which tells what orchestration needs to be picked up. So I try to explain this with an example saying that a sales order is placed by CSR for a laptop. The user also purchases extended warranty for 1 year. The user also orders headphones along with the laptop. Now you see that there are 3 different order lines, and there will be 3 different fulfillment lines for this. One for the laptop, next for the warranty item, and next for the headphones. Now the criteria for laptop, it should be shipped, and even the headphones will be shipped. But whereas for purchase extended warranty, right, you do not have any shipping process in it. It has to go through the invoice. It's only invoice or bill only thing. It's not a physical good that we have as an extended warranty. It's just an online purchase or a soft purchase where you do not have any shipping step for it. So for this, what happens is when you have when you consider a seeded process, right? Seeded process, when you have different steps. Let me go back to the cycle and see that we have something called a schedule, reserve, ship, and invoice. So even though if you have a ship order generic process assigned to it, the schedule, reserve, ship tasks would be skipped because all the parameters, item parameters for a warranty item would be set to no. Okay. Because for scheduling or for reserving or ship, if you have these parameters as no, it will directly go to the invoice step. So it's a 2-level criteria. Or I can completely avoid this ship order generic process and directly assign it to the bill only generic process also. So anyways, I can do that. I can have the flexibility of doing all those things. So that is a criteria where you have different orchestration processes stamped on the same order, which is possible. With a ship order generic process, one being a bill only generic order process and the other one being again ship order generic process. So that kind of scenarios are possible because of the orchestration process assignment. So next is the task layer, which is part of DOO architecture. Task layer is like task layer. When you talk about task layer, right, it's a group of services. A task or a task type is a group of fulfillment tasks together, or you can say that each task contains again some services. These services can be interacting with the downstream fulfillment systems. So for examples, if you have ship, reserve, and return, right, when you have a ship task, what happens is this shipment task, inside this shipment task we have something called as some shipping services. So the minute the orchestration process shipment task begins, right, the shipment task would interact with the would invoke the shipping web services and then accordingly get the information from shipping or pass information to shipping system. Okay, so these are the typical task types that we have as part of R12 or R11. Schedule is one task type. Activity is any manual activity, we call it as an activity, and reservation, shipment, invoice, procurement, return, pause, and supply, all these are different task types. So if you carefully observe, each of this connects to another module. So another inbuilt module, and the pre-built integrations are already built by Oracle. So schedule goes to GOP, reservation again goes to GOP, and shipment is from the inventory cloud service. All the shipment services are part of the shipment. Invoice, again, it will go to AR, and procurement, it invokes a procurement service, maybe typically in the case of a back-to-back or a dropship service. You have supply where, which gives the supply lines how we get the supply lines and fulfill the demand. Pause is to tell, is a generic service which can be used anywhere, just to tell that, please pause this from task to task. If you want to have, for example, after schedule and between schedule and reservation, you want to pause your orchestration for some time, then you use the pause task. And you have this fulfill order and a return order. I'll have to check what this fulfill order is. You have a return order and activities, any manual activity that you can see that is used for activity. It doesn't have any web service bundled with it. So these are the different types of task types. And once these task types are invoked, right, you have operations like update task, cancel task, or things like that. Those things are present in task. But this task layer actually invokes something called as external interface layer, and this external interface layer will have the which connection to be invoked. So you can have again criteria for EIL. You have an OBR screen where I can say that if my task is so and so, or if my item is so and so, or if my source system is so and so. Like for example, if I'm getting an order from ATG, then you'll have to fulfill it from SAP. If my system is like that, then I can define rules around here. So here also you'll have OBR. This is a screen where we have OBR, whereas in task types, I don't think you have any OBR. So in EIL also you have OBR, which tells you which which target system needs to be invoked, and that gives you the feel of plug and play. So you can say that the minute you change the connection from SAP to Oracle, then it changes, it calls a different service altogether, and the new service has to fulfill it. However, integration, I mean, in real time the integration is a pain, but it gives the feel of a plug and play, that you can switch on and switch off, or toggle between different systems, different fulfillment systems. And this EIL is completely built on SOA framework for communication, because this is part of DOO. Everything in DOO is almost built on SOA and ADF frameworks. So this is what we have in EIL, and so this is how the UI of the external interface routing rules looks like, and the task is to manage external interface routing rules. This can be accessed from the functional setup manager FSM. And one example here they have given, this is the standard shipping task. So what happens when we have ship as a task? If the task is ship task, right, the ship task invokes the shipping task routing. It will go to by the shipping task routing, and it says that if shipment is the header task type and header is order header, it says that if there is any order header, and shipment if it's the task type. So if it is hitting the shipment task type, then it will print a log which says header.source order, which this is printed for the log purpose, and it asserts a new thing, that is a result which says invoke the fusion shipment service. You see at the last line, right? So it says that invoke a service name which is the fusion shipment. So in case if you're trying to invoke some other external system, I edit this, okay, and then create a new task for this, and say that if this is a custom task, here I'll make it as a custom task, and say that I'll give my system here, the target system, say custom shipment system, and then this will be a web service name again. The next topic is Oracle Business Rules, or the OBR. And a business rule, what do you mean by business rule? So what do you mean by a business rule here is a statement that describes how to implement a business policy or make a decision. So this OBR is part of Oracle SOA middleware framework. So they've taken up the same concept and implemented in the SaaS solution here, the OBR one, and OBR comes inbuilt with the SOA, and they have used SOA for building DOO. So the OBR rules also part of it. So we got OBR rules for defining your business policies, so making business decisions. So that is what an OBR is. And inside OBR, we have a lot of terminology for OBR. It looks clumsy, but we can try to understand what each terms is. All some of these terms which you have already seen in the earlier screenshots. So there's something called as a dictionary. So dictionary is something which contains all your facts, functions, bucket sets, rule set, global. All these things are part of your dictionary. You can consider dictionary as a box which contains everything, the holder of all these things. And there's a fact. Fact is a transactional data that the rule uses. So what is a fact is, for example, if I say that item is if I say item is a headphone, then probably this is a fact. Now this fact would drive a rule. Okay, this fact would drive a rule. So as long as item is something, that's a fact. You cannot change. As a fact changes, the rule changes. That's what they call it as the forward chaining mechanism in OBR. Don't get carried away with the terminology, just I'm telling it. So fact is something which is a statement or a premise that you call as a logical thing, right? That's a fact. And rule condition is something like the if part of it, and rule action is the then part of it. We have seen this. Asset is add a new fact to the dictionary. So this dictionary, right, whatever we have in the dictionary, we can add new rules to it, or we can modify the existing things to it, or we can delete rules from it. So that's what a dictionary contains all these facts and rule sets. So based on one fact, I can modify the other one. I can use a rule action to modify the facts. You can delete it, retract it. So that's what we call it as the modify here, retract to remove a fact from the dictionary, assert new fact to add a new fact to the dictionary altogether, and assign is if there are any variables in the dictionary and I want to assign some values, right? Then I use an assign one. So these are the typical actions. It's simple: add, modify, and then delete. So these kind of things I've used a different terminology altogether. And at the end we have FOM-Order, which says that view row IMPL. View row IMPL is if you're looking for some row in a view object. If it is from a database table and you are looking for a specific thing, you'll have to send this as a parameter. There's nothing action from our end to do or modify it. This is just a parameter that we need to pass in OBR. And why we need to pass this? Because it references to some row in some object. Then we'll have to use the view row IMPL. Add new order line, which we have seen as part of the transformation rule. It adds a new line. And delete order line, it deletes a new order line. And modify entity completely modifies an entity, and this is applicable only here post or pre-transformation rules. Okay, if you are doing it as part of any other things, then you use the modifier which is above. The modifier data value is just stated with matched fact in the dictionary. That is a modify. Modify entity is what you see in your pre or post transformation rules. So this is a typical flow on how a business rule works, right? When you start the flow, and then there's an event which there's an event. The event can be something like a click or a submit, or these kind of things can be an event. So once an event is kicked off, right, it will start the rule. It will activate the rule. It checks whether the rule is active or not. If the rule is active, then it interacts with the dictionary, and this dictionary would contain the rules, facts, functions, variables, or whatever it is. And then it goes to the reference dictionary. So this dictionary is always referred to it. If there are any changes that needs to be done because of this rule, then those changes, those facts are modified, edited, deleted in the dictionary, and the same thing would be references in your reference dictionary. And then you see that the action is performed. So 2 and 3 is like what happens in if and do part of it. So perform action is what actually happens, the outcome of it. And then they say this is a stop, but actually what happens, this is a cycle. You see that activate, rule, reference dictionary, and 2, 3 and the dictionary, right? What happens is in this mechanism, a fact can change a rule can change a fact, kind of mechanism is there here there. So which we typically don't encounter, but as part of SOA they have developed this in OBR. So this is a typical structure from where they got this. So don't get much into this slide. We can see what it happens. Let's keep it simple and try to understand what it is. So I have developed a simple use case to explain what OBR is, and we see that there is an online selling company, schedules and reserves material based on the demand. However, for a specific order type, shipping is done only after it receives a manual approval from an authority. So how best can you implement this scenario in Cloud OM? So what I'm trying to tell in this is, if we have a seeded orchestration process, let's say it goes through the schedule, reserve, ship, and invoice. So these are the typical steps in a seeded orchestration process. Now what we are trying to do is to insert a pause statement after reservation. So the shipment should not happen, and there should be a pause, and the orchestration should wait at pause. So that's what this scenario tries to explain. So this is a solution. The solution is what I have explained. So you have a pause step that is inserted between the reserve and ship, and for this you define your own orchestration process and give it a new name and add this orchestration process there. And after adding the orchestration process, you make sure that you assign this orchestration process. Now while assigning the orchestration process, you will have to define two rules. One rule to say that the regular flow in the sense, I bring in a rule condition here which I say as a specific type, and say that if it is a specific type, then bring in the new pause orchestration process, or else go with the regular flow of ship order generic process. So this is how the flow chart looks like. Now how we do it in the system, we'll see probably. Okay, this is explaining the pause rule and how the orchestration process works. So I'll get back to this slide. And yeah, so these are the setups that we are supposed to do for achieving this business case, right? We have to define an orchestration process and make sure you have an assignment rule in place, and then you create a sales order and check the orchestration process assigned to the right orchestration process or not. And then you validate the pause and the orchestration plan, because after reservation it should not directly go to the ship, it should wait on the orchestration process. And then what you do subsequently is you release the pause task and see that the pause task is in completed status. So I've created a sample order which says that you see that the scheduling is done, reservation is done, and the completion is also done because I've released the pause task already. If you do not release it, it should wait on the status with some status like waiting or something, and they should be in LO, and unless and until you complete this, it should not move to the awaiting shipment. It has to wait there. And two ways of releasing the pause task is, first go to orchestration plan, under actions you have something called as release pause task. If you click on this, it will release the pause task, or you can directly go to your ESS jobs, that is manage schedule schedule processes from your navigator, and then run the ESS process release pause task. Then it will release the pause task. Probably it will ask for parameters like order number or item number, something like that. You give those parameters, and you can do it in batch as well. For example, if you provide something like a warehouse, or you have some parameters based on which you can release multiple pause as well.